Hi, everybody. We have Kish YZ. We have another Western Conference round to the West semifinals matchup between the number four Los Angeles Clippers versus the number one Utah Jazz. And just to headline this, basically, we know the situation between the two teams. The the Clippers just coming off that fresh win against the Mavericks on Sunday, just to end that series, which was a 7-game series, versus the Jazz, who's had plenty of rest over the last several days after taking care of the Memphis Grizzlies in 5 games. So for me, starting out this series, it's going to be the battle of who has the higher energy to start this series. Like I said, the Clippers are just coming off of that win, but with it being 7 games, are they going to keep that momentum going, or are they going to be a little bit more sluggish? Or on the other hand, are the Utah Jazz going to be the team that might be a little sluggish just from the layoff of not playing games for several days? Hopefully, they have their mindset right as far as taking care of business early, or maybe they just get out the gates and just gun ho and try to just bring the thing down early on and just dominate the team just because they know that we're hungry, we're wanting to dig deep and leave it all on the court every single game, treat every game like it's a game 7 or an elimination game. And then, like I said, just take care of business early. Once again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you are subscribed, we greatly appreciate it, and consider sharing the videos as well. But yeah, just going straight into the series here. Let's start off with the Clippers. The Clippers, for me, obviously the two main guys, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They had a great series against the Mavericks, especially Kawhi Leonard. He looks like the player that we were expecting him to be when he came to LA after winning the championship with the Toronto Raptors. The last series was obviously round one, so he still has more to prove. But going against this team in the Utah Jazz, if he could pull this off, that's going to speak tremendous on his talent, ability, and where he possibly ranks currently as far as one of the best players in the league. And Paul George as well, as far as him contributing in that playoffs, it looked like he shook the rust off of the playoff P version of himself from last year's playoffs in the bubble, where he contributed consistently. And I think that last game he had a double double, so he had he might have had just exactly 10 assists, but he's contributing in more than just scoring, which is what we like to see. But what's going to be pivotal for these two guys is to show their defense. This is the number one team in the West, the number one team in the whole league that they're going against in the Utah Jazz. So, both of these guys being great two-way players, which is what they were known for in the past, and should still be known for. So we definitely have to see them be, quote unquote, hands-on. Obviously it's not hand checking style of game anymore, but they just got to be a little bit more gritty with the defense, because the Utah Jazz has a lot of firepower. So continue to play at a high level, and that'll be great for the Clippers. If these guys don't play at a high level, then there's nothing else to really fall back on. But Patrick Beverley, in my opinion, another guy, when we talk about defense, he should fit right into that, but he didn't play much in the last series. They decided to start Reggie Jackson, which is a good start. Reggie Jackson is definitely a guy that should still continue to see that same role, at least starting out in this series, and go from there. But Patrick Beverley, if he gets in the game, we definitely need to see him increase his defensive mentality, and just be that aggressor and agitator that he was known for in the past. And there's a lot of depth to the Utah Jazz, so if he could kind of help to get some of the main guys in foul trouble, or take them out of the game mentally, that would greatly help the Clippers' chances. Zubac is another guy that needs to watch out for foul trouble. We saw that with the Dallas series that they just finished up, where he just wasn't effective for that series. So we'll see if he has a bounce back series, but it's kind of hard to predict or expect what we might see out of him, in my opinion, versus comparing it to the last series. And he's going against another big here, so that might help. In the more traditional sense of a big that gets more involved in the game compared to the Dallas Mavericks team. So he should be of use, but he just has to watch his foul trouble, in my opinion, against Rudy Gobert in particular, or any other players that might do some type of switch on him to draw the foul. But also Morris, that's on the team. He hopefully he could still keep contributing. He ended the last series well, so hopefully that remains the same, and he could be another valuable piece along with Reggie Jackson that will help assist in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, especially on the offensive end, and also chip in with some rebounding and just contributing, like I said, back on offense with his 3-point shooting. When he's on, he's on. So he could have some great 3-point shooting games. So if they space the floor and get him open in the corner, that can definitely help them there. But my X factor for this, I would have to be Rajon Rondo. I want to say Rondo because of his IQ. And you're like I said, you're going against the number one team in the league. So Rondo's talent to read defensive schemes and call out plays and to memorize things, that's going to be very important here, and just his scouting ability of his opponent. So he's going to use whatever information he can gather, and he gathers information pretty quickly just from observing how the team is playing, and cipher that through onto like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to help them with their defense. So that's going to be key here for me, is Rondo paying attention to how the other team is playing, whether he's on the court or not, because he can also contribute from the bench standpoint, doing the timeouts and the huddles, and relay messages on what he's seeing, and or draw up plays if need be. So we've seen him do that before in the past. So yeah, I'm going to use him as my X factor just in the Clippers segment here. So let's go ahead and go into the Utah Jazz. So the Utah Jazz, for me, they have what I would call the everything package. The everything package. They have the guards, they have the bigs, they have the coach, they have the bench, they have everything. They're number one in the league for a reason this regular season going into the playoffs. So let's see everything that you got. And like I said, leave it all on the floor. Let's start with the main guy here, Donovan Mitchell. He looked healthy and well playing in the first round series against the Memphis Grizzlies. He did miss game one, but we could say that Donovan Mitchell is basically 4-0. I hope I'm getting this right. I think, yeah, they took care of Memphis in 5 games, I believe. So, hasn't lost a game. And yeah, so, he's definitely a huge contributor in that team. He's their go-to guy, the future of the team, the franchise leader. So, in my opinion, when I'm looking at Donovan Mitchell and then I'm comparing the Clippers this series to what they did in last series, I'm looking at Donovan Mitchell like he needs to play how Luka Doncic played against the Clippers, which means that he needs to match or exceed Kawhi Leonard's offensive reproduction or production, sorry, reproduce what Kawhi Leonard can do and just be better at doing that, or at least match that to some extent. And then when it comes to like a Paul George or a third role player, I think the rest of the Utah Jazz can definitely overpower that as far as the offensive power there between like a Joe Ingles or Mike Conley. Of course, you got Jordan Clarkson off the bench, and then you have Rudy Gobert out there as a starter, and along with some other players that are key pieces to their rotation. So like I said, he just needs to match the production and or reproduce the what Kawhi Leonard can bring to the court as far as what he does for the Clippers. Donovan needs to do that for the Utah Jazz. And then Rudy Gobert, just to touch on him again, Rudy Gobert has to dominate this team, because what we saw once again, bringing up Zubac for the Clippers, going against the Dallas Mavericks, Luka was able to foul him out. Yeah, I don't look for Rudy Gobert to necessarily do that in the fashion that Luka did. But if Zubac's not going to be effective, or other people on the Utah Jazz are taking Zubac out of the game, then Rudy Gobert should definitely eat. But even if Zubac is in the game, Rudy Gobert should definitely still dominate the offensive glass, the defensive glass when it comes to rebounds. So, look for Rudy Gobert to put up some second chance points there, and just, be that defensive player of the year, that type of anchor man for that team, and just kind of keep it all steady, keep it going downhill from there on, and just, like I said, kind of bum rush the Clippers is what they need to start off with. Like, the Clippers are going to be ready for the series, but they both have something to prove. Like I said, with the Clippers losing earlier than expected last year, they have something to prove. But with the Utah Jazz constantly being miscounted, kind of being left out, and looking at the team, they're still not in the news as much. So, they're playing with their chip on their shoulder, that's for sure. So, yeah, do everything you can to stay motivated and use that for motivation. But yeah, I should definitely see Rudy Gobert dominate. He might have an off game maybe once, maybe twice in the series if he gets into foul trouble, but hopefully he just, you know, is aware of that and just, for him to be careful and then just do Rudy Gobert things, and he should be fine there. So for my X factor for the Utah Jazz, I'm leaning towards Mike Conley and Joe Ingles just because of, I want to see some more defensive involvement, as far as, not saying that they weren't playing terrible defense. I'm using them as an example because of their defense. I want them to kind of, look at shutting down whatever potential third option that the Clippers may have. I know Joe Ingles comes off the bench, but if he's coming in and Mike Conley is going out, because Joe Ingles can be a playmaker as well from off the bench, that I want them to stop if it's like a Reggie Jackson, if it's um, Marcus Morris there, as far as trying to stop the team from having a third option to go to consistently. But I mean, you want to make other players beat you outside of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, but at the same time, with so much depth, so much offensive output, along with the defensive output of the Utah Jazz, I could see them stopping that potential third player as far as the scoring output, and that's just going to help them win the game as well, just from the lack of go-tos for the Clippers. So let's see if that happens. And then overall, just to sum this up, I know this is kind of a shorter video, but like I said, there's not too much here more I don't want to touch on. So I want to go ahead and say that my prediction for this series would be the Utah Jazz in 5 games. It'd be incredible if they were able to just sweep and just clean up real quick, but I'm just putting in a 1 game buffer there in case, Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers are, still feeling themselves for game one, just because the Utah Jazz has had several days of rest. And but from there on, yeah, I think Jazz all the way, in my opinion. It might not be the easiest win, but I think some games are going to be easier than others. But like I said, just going back and looking at the Clippers Maverick series. So in an instance, let's say the Utah Jazz loses game one, they come back, bounce back for game two, take care of that. And if Luka can win 2 road games, I think the Clippers. I'm sorry, I think the Utah Jazz can win 2 road games against the Clippers. So let's say they take games 3 and 4 and then back home for game five. And then there you have it, Jazz in 5. So thank you everybody for watching. Like I said, once again, if you're watching this video, give us a thumbs up for a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you are subscribed, thank you. And please share. And also you can find our podcast for audio only versions on Spotify, Anchor.fm, Breakers, and some other places. Just look for us under KishYZ. And then if you want to follow us or DM us on Twitter, Instagram, follow us at KishYZ, KISH_YZ there. And once again, thank you for watching our videos. And everybody, peace and love.